Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second session of India by the Bay Digital. Food and spices, myriad local flavors are such an integral part of India's identity and culture. A food culture that supports a dazzling variety of cuisine. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about food, Zaika, food, creativity, and lockdown with Chef Romy Gill and Chef Piku in conversation with Sanjay Roy. Romy is a British Indian chef, food writer, author, and broadcaster. She was the owner and head chef at Romy's Kitchen. She is one of the chefs on the new series of Ready Steady Cook on BBC and has previously appeared on Sunday Brunch, BBC The One, BBC Country Life, BBC Celebrity MasterChef, and much more. She is the author of Zaika, Vegan Recipes from India, and regularly contributes to national and international publications. Rahul Gomes Pareira, acclaimed Indian chef Rahul or Chef Piku, will provide the perfect gastronomical digital experience in Indian fine dining and delight the viewers with his insight to the variety of Indian cuisine. Jamun is an eclectic food destination on Delhi's culinary map that embraces India's vast range of rustic, authentic flavors with a range of recipes from Kashmir to the Deccan. Sanjay Roy, an entrepreneur of the arts, managing director of Teamwork Arts, which produces 33 highly acclaimed performing arts, visual arts, and literary festivals across the globe. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thanks, Ankur, and welcome everybody on behalf of Lakshmi, Shanali, Paru, and all our colleagues at Teamwork Arts. A big welcome. Normally, we would be there in person to greet each of you at the entrance of the Asian Society and escort you to your tables. And then there would be this incredible gourmet feast, which in fact Piku was part of last year. But this year, unfortunately, you have to make do with us on Zoom, but we promise that sooner or later we will be back with some of the best food experiences. I'm delighted to have with us two wonderful chefs from two different parts of the world and sort of catering to different kinds of palates. One entirely vegetarian and one mostly meat driven. So I'm going to start by welcoming Chef Piku and Chef Romy Gill. Thank you both. Romy, where exactly are you connecting with us from today?
Thank you for having me. I am from England, but I live in Southwest, and just outside Bristol, north of Bristol, in a small town called Thornbury, which is a beautiful part of the world. And actually, there's sunshine and it's not raining today.
And are you sort of safe? Are you COVID safe? Is it difficult? Are you locked down or unlocked down?
Very. Southwest is the safest place in UK, and it's very, very safe. And you know, we just have to. This thing has happened. We have to go by it. We have to live our life. We cannot just shut in a room and not be able to do. And as a chef, as a writer, I have to travel. I have to, cook for others. So I think, COVID or not COVID, it's something we always have to eat. Food is something which brings people together. So it's a very important part of my life, my growing up years and here as well, I think. So yeah, it's safe. You know, what can you do?
So I'm going to come back to your growing up years in a bit. I'm going to go to Chef Piku. Piku, where exactly are you?
Thank you, Sanjay. I'm actually sitting in, and it's actually the safest place to be, I guess, in India currently. The world is coming into Goa. India's traveling to Goa. I'm sitting in a small village called Asagaon, which is stunning amongst natural beauty, spaced out and pretty safe and sound, happily cooking.
So, Piku, how is it that Asagaon has become the sort of capital of Goan cuisine in recent times? Some of the best restaurants seems to have opened up there. What happened? What changed?
Well, I think it's proximity to the beach and the city, and just its abundance of natural beauty, great produce. You know, we are 5 minutes from the nearest dock. We are placed among some beautiful green fields, growing some great vegetables. Uh, the seafood is there, meat is it's just a great location in terms of produce, and just placed really well in terms of connectivity and getting in and out. And it's been the last 5 years that a great number of restaurants have actually come about in Asagaon, and it's a buzzing food destination in Goa.
So Piku, you've got fish, you've got meat, but Romy, much of your cuisine, certainly the Zaika book, has been based on vegetarian, vegan recipes. Tell us a little bit about how a Punjabi from Bengal could even think that vegetarian food was something that should be written about. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
I think the reason of me behind writing this book was very much my emotional thing about my mom, because she passed away last year, and that is the food she cooked. But also, vegan has become really very much suddenly come. You know, while growing up, we didn't know the word vegan. In India, we don't really knew the word what vegan is, but it's just something which I wanted to show it to people that you know, you in India we practically eat a lot of plant-based food, and you know, even if there is a thali of meat, we will have dal, we will have sabji, chutney, and many other things that actually become a beautiful, you know, a meal. So I wanted to show that, and not have something called vegan cheese, or you know, something that is not natural. People are making produce which is not natural. And also, a lot of chefs now, a lot of people, you know, UK chefs, Indian chefs in UK and abroad, are very much into going back to the roots, and talking about the cuisine that they grew up with. And also, we are a country, you know, the way I was growing up was a country that we have abundance of spices, and each and every spice has a story to tell, has something very good for your body. So this was my point of writing this book, to tell that India is not a vegan country, but we cherish plant-based food. So that's why I wanted to write a book that actually was very, very close to my heart.
Romy, you talked about spices, and I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that in a second. The whole thing about spices, but one of the things that you wrote about is how food saved your life.
I think food was something, when I came, I was 22 years old. I was very young, and you know, nowadays 22 years, like, my daughters are teenagers, they are quite big. And for them, you know, 22 is, mommy, you're too old. 22 is too old. The young is like, they are 17 and 15. So for them, that is young. And they were like, I said, years ago, we didn't have the phones, you know, the phones, we didn't have the technology that we have today. If we had COVID at that time, there would have been so much trouble. You know, with the technology now, I can keep update with my parents. And so when I came here, the Indian food wasn't great at that time, which was like 26, 27 years ago. I mean, Indian food in UK it's just amazing. So I think at that time, I mean, still there is that 5 pints of lager and a curry, which we have curry houses here, you know, generically food, which is you wouldn't eat, I would not eat, and the people serving would not.
The Kashmiri balti prawn, which I've never understood. I have a Kashmiri balti and a prawn, but hey, let the Sylhetis figure that one out.
But I think, to be honest, the Bangladeshi restaurants were the restaurants that introduced the British to the spices, to the curries. So we cannot, you know, not talk about those people. But hey, that's the place that is in it. You know, curry is the #1, you know, food of UK. But the point is, it's changing. People are bringing. So for me, when I moved here, I was super excited about the food, about the food, Indian food, but everything tasted the same. Everything tasted the same, everything looks same, but the names were different, as you said. The names all different, and the names which I have never heard in India. So because, you know, it was so such a shock. And that's in that very day I said to my husband, I am going to open a restaurant. I'm going to go back to, I wanted to be in the hospitality industry. I am a self-taught chef, and I went back to it and I opened a restaurant. I think, and I wanted a restaurant that people can actually relate to it. It was a very successful restaurant. So I think the food was something. UK is such a harsh climate, and coming from Bengal, it was a cold country. It was a dark at that time, all the time raining where I was. I think food was something that I was able to share with people, and that kind of really take me out of I was going in a depression because I was like, I don't have any friends here, I don't have any family here. I started cooking, and I started giving it to people, sharing with others. So I think that was something really, really saved me at that point.
Piku, much of what Romy is saying has really been the basic philosophy, right? Feed people, feed them with love, talk about the different spices. And here in the time of COVID, we've seen across the world people experimenting with food, making their beautiful loaves of bread, etc. Everybody's gone back to that sense of comfort. Two questions to you. One is that as opposed to Romy in a dark, gloomy, rainy, eternally drizzly country, you're in a verdant green paradise where even the monsoons are stunning. I was there a couple of weeks ago in the midst of monsoons, and I had to rush off to Mapsa to buy my Goan vinegar and my garlic and Goan red chili. How do spices make the Goan food so different from everywhere else? Tell us a little bit about your journey during the times of COVID.
Well, Sanjay, Goan food is highly reliant on spices, and I wouldn't say it's spice heavy. It's extremely well balanced in terms of spices, sweetness, vinegar. The Portuguese left behind a great uh, European European way of actually cooking, right? And Goan food highly depends on the natural produce grown here. Coconut, Goan vinegar, toddy vinegar, palm fenny, Goan local chilies, uh, these small Goan juniper berries called tephra, which are used in our curry. Uh, there's a whole list of ingredients I can touch upon, and
Kokum,
that's such
kokum
an
as well.
kokum as well, and that's such an integral part of Goan food. Uh, and people enjoy food in Goa. Stepping out to have a meal, very much like Kolkata and Bengal, stepping out to have a meal, something which families look forward to, friends look forward to, and it's surprising, to see it's slowly changing. But for years, the Goa I grew up in, Goan stepped out to eat Goan food. You ate Goan food at home, but you stepped out to eat Goan food again somewhere else because every home cooks it differently. There is no standard recipe. There is no right or wrong. It's uh, I- growing up. You had housewives competing within your neighborhood for who made the best sarpatel. So it's a very integral part of Goan culture, and I think the COVID and the lockdown has brought out a lot more in that. Considering that the younger generation who had stepped away from Goa for very long came back, and the amount of home cooking you're seeing today, the amount of cooking that people have come back to rediscover recipes that they'd forgotten about, food that I had forgotten about. You can't cook Goan food out of Goa very easily because it's so reliant on the ingredients. And having coming back and had a prawn curry the way it was made, say 20 years ago, just brings back memories of childhood, and that's the silver lining of COVID. It's been phenomenal to come back home, spend time with family, bond over food. How much can you do uh, we're a family of six. Uh, we ran out of conversation after a month, but food was what kept us going for 5 months. We planned our dinner sitting for lunch. We planned our lunch sitting for breakfast. Uh, and that's that's the silver lining of COVID. It's been fantastic. And the restaurant perspective, I think COVID has a huge silver lining because people have started to appreciate stepping out after being at home for so long. Uh, Stepping out to a restaurant, experiencing service, experiencing what a restaurant's all about is just such a refreshing feeling after 5 months that people are really appreciating what we do, and I see that really helping us.
You're absolutely right. The first time in this lockdown that we actually went to a restaurant is when we went off to Goa to our home there, and we stepped out and went to a couple of restaurants in Goa because you're always worried. Romy, Piku talked about bonding over food. Much of your recipes, COVID or otherwise, is everything from momos to samosas. Now these are from different cultural backgrounds. Tell us a little bit about how you assimilated all of this, because momo comes from a particular part of the country. Of course, it's traditional to Calcutta and Tangra and Chinatown, and samosa is so specific to the north of India. And yet you've assimilated all of this not just in your book, but in your sort of excellence in cuisine. Tell us about your journey there.
See, I was brought up in Burnpur, which is an East Coast steel plant. So my dad worked there, and so the people who are in the army, Air Force, army, people who work in steel plants, will understand and cherish more the cuisines of different part of India. As Piku said, regional food. Indian food is just not Indian. It's regional food, and everybody in the household cooks so differently. So I owe so much to my dad and mom, because if he didn't work in the steel plant, I wouldn't have come to cuisine of my friends who were from Nepal, but their family moved to Dehradun. They were from Nepal, and then I have friends from Kerala. If you see in my book, there's the Bonda. And all people from Gujarat, my dad worked with, or people from Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh. So for me, and Northeast India as well. So people came from all over India to work there. So and the community, it was a very community kind of a place, Burnpur and Asansol. If you know Asansol, Chef Sabi comes from there, Chef Vivek Singh comes from there, and myself. There's a lot of influence of Armenian food. And then a lot of cultural background of the British cuisine. Anglo-Indian people are still there. So I think for me to take that and put that in my book and give that, actually Indian food or any kind of food, vegetarian, can be very delicious. It doesn't have to be meat. I mean, in my restaurant, when we were selling, like wild boar or venison or goat meat was so popular. People loved it, the way I cooked, lal mas, from this kind of style, from Rajasthani style, or goat meat was kosha mansho, and people loved that. But also the cuisine that the most popular in my restaurant was about octopus. So I used to make this octopus with tamarind and panchforan. So panchforan is very Bengali spice. Tamarind is, like if you go to in a Punjab village, they don't even know curry leaves. What is tamarind? They won't know because they use anardana. So I think that I was very, very lucky in that sense that I go and talk to people as well, a lot of street food influences in my cuisine. So I think octopus became the talking point of everybody. Loved it, the way it used to be blanched and then cooked in tamarind and panchforan, or sea bass cooked in Amritsari blend and then made a moli out of it. You have to have those kind of, and as a chef, whether you are taught in a culinary institute or whether you are a home cook or whether you become a self-taught chef, you have to be creative. You have to be creative, but also I was very much influenced that I did not want to forget my roots. I want to have that. And I came from a homeland from India, and UK is my homeland now. So I wanted to have the two cuisines that I could balance and give it to people. So I think my next book, which I have also got book deal, will be very completely different book, but you have to believe in something and then put that in outside to people, and people, as Piku said, people enjoy, here people love going out, you know, people enjoy going out, and I'm supporting a lot of my restaurants at the moment because with COVID, you know, it's so many regulations changing from one day to another. You can't do this, you can't do that. But I think hospitality industry is something that they will all come together no matter what happens to you. They will all come behind you and raise money for different things. I think I belong here. I don't know if I would be able to do anything else now. So I think yes, my parents, the heritage my parents gave me from a small East Coast seed plant, and then, you know, contributing my part in the UK industry.
So, Romy, did many of the people who came through a restaurant realize that your posto bora was poppy seeds, poppy seeds with a cutlet? Did they know that? Did health and safety know that, for example?
You know, we used to explain on the menu, but people were used to very much about the black poppy seeds, not the white. So they didn't understand the white poppy seeds. So I had to explain that. You know, they loved it. And also with drinks, you know, when you're having some beer or whiskey or whatever, those poster boras are just amazing. You know, it's something, I think it's like a delicacy, and it's people enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely. Piku, similarly, like, you know, the way that Romy sort of reinvented some of the very comfort food home cuisine, you've actually gone the other way. You haven't really looked at making stuff heavy. You sort of innovated. You've looked at fresh from the garden or fresh to the table kind of recipes, whether it's your smoked wonderful pork bits or whatever. How, you know, in India, we don't, I mean, you tend to disguise a lot of the meat cuts and the fish with the masala. I mean, the masala what's masala in English? What's masala in English? It's gone from my head.
Just
Masala.
Masala. Masala.
Just masala.
Spices. So the spices, I mean, we tend to spice up our stuff. But in much of your food, you've actually sort of separated that. And you've tried to be fairly minimalistic and allowed the vegetable or the meat to come through. Tell us how you got that influence from Goa.
Well, I think the word minimalistic is apt for you know how I perceive food and what I enjoy eating and cooking. Uh, I was trained in kitchens through and through my career, and my my uh, my small stints in Indian kitchens always I would always leave and say, you know, it's the same thing, you know. It's heavily spiced, it's masked. There's either a lot of butter or a lot of cream or a lot of spice, a lot of it's just too heavy. And heavy Indian food did really well for a very long period of time. uh, a rich dal, a rich curry is what Indian food was perceived to be. However, the more I traveled around India and walked around the country, I started to realize that home Indian food was never heavy. It was always restaurant Indian food that was made heavy just to have a differentiation. And once I realized that, I set out on this journey to actually understand, go back into finding traditional recipes. And in the Northeast, smoked pork is just smoked pork. It's lightly spiced with a naga chili and just smoked in the bamboo shoot. So simple, so clean. Yet we don't talk about food like that when we talk about Indian food. Uh, the Goan smoked mackerel is just a smoked mackerel. We celebrate the ingredient, and when you can tap into great produce and actually source right, and celebrate the ingredient, there's no better feeling. And for me, I also look at it purely like any restaurateur should, in the financial terms of it. I want a guest to come into my restaurant 4 times a month. Uh, the more masala, he's going to come once a month. Uh, the less masala, he can come back to eat my food. You feel light when you walk out. You're not overpowered and say, oh wow, that was a great meal, but I need to nap now. That's what I don't want. I want to say, wow, that was a great meal. I can have a cocktail after this. And that's what I go for, and that's what we try to achieve.
So, Romy, Piku, this is for both of you. You know, I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I'm doing a dinner at home, at night, I dream up of the recipe, etc. And then I'll go off the next morning and wander in whatever wet market. And Piku, you and I have wandered across wet markets in different parts of the world, Egypt and Turkey, etc. And then create that food. But now in the time of lockdown, given that we all need to be a little careful about where we're going, what's the kind of cuisine that we are sort of consuming, how to remain healthy, what is your magic mantra for our wonderful audiences who are not being able to experience your cooking today? What's your magic mantra for them? What would you advise them? Simple recipes, simple foods that could boost immunity, you know, whether it's raw turmeric or ginger based, etc. Each of you give us a thought in terms of what you would suggest to our viewers.
For me, I think I'm really, really lucky because I live in Southwest, which is near Devon, near the Cotswold or the Cornwall. So the fish that comes is very fresh. I mean, you said you're near the docks and it's literally down the road for you. And the fish and the seafood, everything is so fresh. And the vegetables, you know, the vegetable boxes I have from Riverford, they're all organic. They're all grown in this country. So when I had the restaurant, everything was from the Southwest. It didn't go any miles from any other, you know, to go to any other country to get any ingredients. Yeah, of course, the spices come from India. I just think that, as Piku said, that over spicing your dish, you know, sometimes people have a tendency, maybe put this, put that, that'll make it more. But I think one ingredient like cumin or coriander, they're so versatile. You know, any fresh turmeric, as you said, anything like that. Or black peppercorns, they're also versatile spices and they catch on to different vegetables and spices so brilliantly. Like you said, smoked. We have smoked mackerel here, which I smoke. And I put really, we blowtorch it. Don't overcook it because sometimes some fishes, you don't really need to overcook it. And a little bit of lemon juice, sea salt, and blowtorch, magic. You know, and all these things you have to learn. You can't just say that I've come from India and that is it. Indian food, wow. You know, people go from here to those metropolitan cities and that is it. They don't venture out, you know, about Kashmiri cuisine. Or if you go to Ladakh, you go to Andaman Nicobar Island, you go any part of the world, or in India. It's so good. And so my philosophy is the same, you know, use less spices. Don't overcook your food. You know, overcooking sometimes can just lose all the goodness of the food. So I think that for me is very, very important.
Piku, for you?
Well, very simple. Source local, eat what's in season. You know, keep your plate close to where you live.
Exactly.
And cut out preservatives, cut out trans fats, cut out stuff which has anything with a label on it. Stay away from. And of course, I mean, follow whatever the WHO and the Ayush Ministry in India tells you. There's turmeric, there's ginger. We come from the land of spices. Kada is something which was always a homemade recipe for treating common colds and flu. Have it. Natural honey in India is so great. Cut out the branded honey. There's something brilliant which I've been following is something called Siddha, which is actually a Ayurvedic concoction from the state of Tamil Nadu, and I have it every morning. It's supposed to be an immunity booster, but I can actually feel my energy levels going up. Just being local and natural and going back to maybe what our grandparents ate,
Yes.
is a smart idea.
And also, like, people have forgotten to make ghee at home. They'll buy it, or yogurt at home. You can do all these things. And also, like running, I run 5 marathons. I run I've run so many half marathons and I raise money. So I think also you have to not only the food, but exercising is very important. Ab ghar mein baith jao and say I can do this. It doesn't happen. Your body needs everything. And I cannot diet. I don't want to diet. I want to eat everything and look after my body. So I think that
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask you, Romy, about ghee. You know, when I walked into superfoods in America, I was like, this new wonder product, ghee on steak. So, do either of you have a take on good homemade ghee? Do you use it as a base, or do you use goose fat, or what's the base both of you use?
so for goose fat, for potatoes, roasting potatoes and anything like that, or if I'm making a pate, I use goose fat or geese fat. But ghee, I make my own. I never buy it. Also, as a Punjaban, I become very Bengali in my fish and other side, and Punjaban in my ghee and milk side. So I think ghee I always make at home. My mom used to boil the milk, cream utar leni, and then she'll put in the fridge, and then she'll do that. What is called a biscuit, and then do it. But I don't do that. But I make my own ghee in the milk I find here. So I do. My husband is very Punjabi, so he likes his ghee very much.
So you buy the double fat ghee. Ghee today is seen to be a superfood. Do you subscribe to that?
Well, again, it's very technical. It's about how you use ghee.
Yes.
The smoking point is much lower than a lot of other fats. It's the olive oil syndrome that's happening with ghee, actually. It's been marketed to be a superfood, and people are going to dunk it in everything and have it with everything. That's not the way it works. Ghee is supposed to be on a very low temperature. Anything you're cooking at a very low temperature. Pan searing a small kebab, fabulous. Use ghee. Top of your dal, use ghee.
Also, sweet dishes, anything sweet.
Anything sweet, use ghee instead of butter, better. However, certain dishes require oil. Certain dishes require pork fat, which is lard. Certain dishes require olive oil. I cook Indian food with olive oil sometimes because it just reacts better. So you got to look at it a little scientifically when it comes to cooking, because there's a lot that goes about with fats, right? It's easy to take a good fat and make it a bad fat in minutes. So
I mean,
the interesting thing is that ghee, I mean, Ayurveda uses ghee as a treatment. If you're going for your 2-week treatment, you start with a spoonful of ghee, and then you do all the way to 2 liters of ghee to be able to grow your colon.
In just its raw form, brilliant.
Yes. But also, like, mustard oil is so good, but in UK you can't really buy mustard oil because at the back of it says not used for human consumption. It's because it's not, people are not taught that it has to be a certain temperature before you're going to cook in it. Bengalis would cook in mustard oil. It's certain things that people, as you said, really need to know the temperature of cooking with different oils and butter and ghee or fat.
Both in Edinburgh, Romy, and in London now, there's these 2 organic that give you cold pressed mustard oil for cooking. So if we do dinners in either of these places, that's what we do. But just going back to Ayurveda for a second, Piku, do you know the recipe of this superfood that you've been taking every morning, Kira?
So it's actually called it's a kara. However, it's called siddha. Now it has giloy, which is supposedly extremely high immunity booster, along with a couple of other herbs, tulsi, ginger, giloy, fresh turmeric, black pepper, and many more ingredients. But I would urge people to read about it. It's easily available online, and easy to source. And it's worked wonders. The Andhra Pradesh government has set up clinics which is treating COVID with just Siddha medication. It's quite fabulous.
I mean, one of the things that I've been prescribed by my Ayurvedic person is you take a cup of garlic, a cup of ginger, grated ginger, and 3 cups of apple cider. You boil it down to, again, just 2 cups. And then you add 3 cups of honey, store it in the cold, and every morning you have a little booster in the morning, which apparently keeps your arteries unclogged. But given that both of you, yeah, so try that, whoever wants to try that. But I'm going to go back to your restaurateur life, both of you, because both of you have been part of the restaurant business. How difficult has it been? I mean, one is being a celebrity chef with somebody else doing the heavy lifting, and one is being an entrepreneur chef, as both of you have been. Tell us a little bit about your chef, your restaurateur story. Romy, you want to start?
Yeah, for me, I think it was quite hard. For the lot of food critics thought, oh, this is another mom who's woken up, and my girls were very little. My youngest was 6 months old when I, started this, and they thought another mom has woken up and wants to open a restaurant. She'll have chefs who will be doing this. No, when they saw that I was hands-on, even if I was on TV, I was like, made sure everything is done. And my chef and I didn't have 10 chefs, just me and one more chef. And in the week when we were very busy, another chef who would help us. It was a very small restaurant, but it because I think it was hands-on and the cuisine was a bit different. I didn't see my children for 5 years. I used to come at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I used to wake up at 6, give them like their breakfast or school lunch, and they wouldn't eat school dinners. And I used to see them like literally for an hour or so. But that I did for 5, 6 years. But as to establish your restaurant, sometimes you have to do it. And where I was, it's a destination place. Food critics wouldn't come. So I was very determined that I would not let my restaurant fail. So I went to London. There's a place called Carousel. They completely changed my life. They bring chefs from all over the world, guys from Bombay Canteen, they've done it, Saransh Goyla, loads of chefs have come, Pratik Sadhu, he's done residencies there. They completely changed my life, like people from Grace Dent to, Jay Rayner, Richard Wines, everybody, Faye Mashlin came to eat there. And they noticed this is somebody completely different, her food speaks. And then I think they were the turning point of my life. And then TV noticed, I got a book deal. And then, it happens, or if I'm a broadcaster on radio. So it all happens and they completely changed my life. And my turning point was Faye Mashlin, who changed my life. But also sometimes as a small business, you have to, if you really believe in a project, you have to work hard for it and not leave it to other people to do it. That was my kind of journey. And Piku might have something different story to mine.
Piku, your journey as a restaurateur.
My story is a little different to what Romy's story would be. I studied professionally to become a chef. I went to culinary school. The problem with culinary school in India is it's not culinary school, it's hotel school. They groom you to become a chef in a hotel kitchen and not a chef at all. They groom you for certain brands. Post that, I worked in hotels for a bit. And it was the information age. Online was big. Suddenly we saw, TV shows on chefs, and suddenly we saw this huge media attention given to restaurants. And I think that was a tipping point where I decided, no, listen, I'm going to leave hotels and venture into the standalone space. The standalone space I was not ready for at all. It's a very different space to be in. Especially in a country like India, where it's a highly competitive market, extremely capital intensive, a little unorganized in the terms of the sector with government regulations. But that's just improved in the last 8 years so much, and slowly but steadily you're going to see some great restaurants come out of India. It's already started to happen. The world is standing up to take notice of Indian restaurants and what they're doing. fine dining was a very hotel thing for the longest time, and now it's no longer that. Great restaurants again were a very hotel thing for the longest time. It's no longer that. Uh, Travelers into India are traveling in with lists of restaurants that they have to go to. You have an Indian restaurant, Indian accent, which has taken the world stage. You have it's the next 10 years is going to be extremely interesting in the Indian food dining scene, and I think my journey has just begun in that sense of it, and I'm excited because I always wanted to do Goa. I always wanted to come back to Goa, and I really truly believe Goa is going to become the food and beverage destination in Asia.
Well,
Uh,
it pretty much is already, Piku, with such wonderful restaurants, including yours, both Jamun and Ping and Mustard or what Mustard used to be and Sakana. But Romy, we're into the last mile of this particular session. I wanted to ask, what's your favorite sort of stress buster dish that you would go to after you've had a mega spat with the kids, you fed up with the husband? What's that one food that you really want to get down to making that will make you smile again?
I'm glad my husband is a computer chip designer. He has nothing to do with the food. He can help me in the technology, but he's a great cook. For me, when I'm, even with the COVID and stuff, I have been non-stop cooking and raising money for different charities and stuff. When I'm doing that or writing or anything, all I want is white or cheapy white bread, or I make it at home, or any kind of white bread, good quality cheddar cheese, which is near Somerset where I live, and rose harissa. So I put a rose harissa, put the cheese on the oven. It's like done in 10 minutes. And that is with a cup of chai, is my ultimate food. I don't care any other food in the world. That's what I want when I'm really had enough of everything. So cheese on toast would be my go-to food and my comfort food.
Romy's cheese chili toast.
Yes.
Romy cheese chili toast. Yeah, except that sometimes I love 2 or 3 different kinds of cheeses. And in Goa, Romy, now they've come up with these fabulous cheeses, which is created in Goa. But next time, Piku, what's your favorite stress buster? I mean, you gave us the chorizo palau when you came to Hong Kong, but what's your stress buster?
Well, so if I'm really, really worked up and really need to get my head off everything else and just focus on cooking, a pork sorpatel, because it's
Yes.
because it's so technical.
Yeah.
It really needs you to be involved in the entire process. It's not a short process, let me tell you. And something like that really takes your mind away from anything else, because all you can do is focus on that. And
In my restaurant, that was also a bestseller. We used to do every 6 weeks, once a day on Friday, and it sold out. People love all these kind of food, comforting food.
yeah, it's
Wow. So one of the things I want you to do is send us a recipe. It doesn't have to have your secret ingredient, but send us a recipe for the sorpatel,
absolutely.
the chili cheese,
I will send it.
and we will put it at the end of the episode, and maybe people can go out to your websites and also check out some of your other stuff. Thank you both so much, Chef Piku, Chef Romy Gill. Thank you for sharing your life story, your wonderful food. Best wishes to you, and we look forward to a cook-off. Who can make the better pork sorpatel or the better
I'm not going to be fighting over it. I'll leave it to Chef Piku. I'll eat it.
I'll tell you what. Let Romy make the sorpatel. I'm going to make the chili cheese toast.
Yeah.
Done. Thank you both, and for those of you who are watching and love this session, please remember you can order Romy's book, Zaika. You can Google it. It's available on Amazon. And for those of you visiting Goa or Delhi, remember both Jamun and Ping is open for business, and the food is fabulous.
Today I'm going to show you how to make my ultimate comfort food. What I like is a white bread, and I'll put a dollop of rose harissa on it. I love rose harissa. If you can't find risa, just use chilies and a little bit of honey, and that works as well. And this is just a normal cheddar cheese. I just grated it. You could always just slice it as well. I find grating is really more I find it goes into the bread and it's better. So simple. Under the grill, literally 2 to 3 minutes it's done, depending on what kind of oven you have. You just put under the grill, and that goes on my tray here. I always warm up the tray, so I'll put that on there like that. Don't want to waste anything, so I'm just gonna put that on, and that goes under the grill for about 3 to 4 minutes. And I'm going to show you the one I made earlier. There you go. Sprinkle whatever's left. And this is my ultimate comfort food, that when I just don't want anything. And this is it. It cooks very quickly and delicious with a cup of chai.
Hi, my name is Rahul Gomes Pareira. You can call me Piku. I was born in Goa, a small state on the western coast of India, known for its natural beauty, abundance in ingredients, and its good looks. Having worked in hotels for a large period of my life, across the Oberoi group in various cities, 4 years ago, I took a foray into the standalone dining experience. We set up a company and opened up a couple of restaurants in Delhi. Jamun is a celebration of regional Indian food from across the country, and a celebration of Indian ingredients, the Indian cooking style and cooking techniques and recipes that may have been lost with our grandparents' generation. Jamun Goa is a restaurant that celebrates the regional diversity of Goa, its ingredients. Based in Asagaon, this old Goan home, we try to bring across the Goan way of life, the culture, as well as celebrating India's regional diversity. The lockdown has been a very tough time for everybody, for businesses and the world at large. However, the silver lining of this lockdown would be, personally for me, spending time with my family, reliving memories through recipes, food, dinner conversations, and reliving my childhood through those moments. My prawn and chorizo pulao was my regular Sunday afternoon meal growing up. A small piece of pork, aged, cured, smoked, adds so much depth and umami to a quintessential Goan ingredient, the Goan chorizo. Mix that with the freshest of prawns, and every Sunday meal becomes a Sunday to remember. India by the Bay, Hong Kong comes at a time when the food and beverage industry at large is worried and concerned about its future. However, I truly believe that we're going to come out of this stronger, more resilient, and more creative than we ever have.
Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this session. Paru, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, chefs. This segment of India by the Bay has always been my very favorite. You've given us so much food for thought, so thank you for that. For the rest of us, do join us tomorrow, same place and same time, for an hour of music with Shabindra Saskia and a collaboration with Tijo right here in Hong Kong. So good night and stay well.